Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody's doing wonderfully on this Tuesday afternoon. Um, we are very fortunate this month. We are doing a web series featuring nonprofits and charitable organizations here in San Antonio, particularly our neighbors. And I have been privileged to be accompanied today by Kristina Hernandez from the Children's Bereavement Center. Good afternoon, Kristina.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, can you tell us a little bit about um, the purpose of the Children's Bereavement Center?
Sure. So, our center was founded in 1997, and our purpose is to provide support to children and their caregivers when they've experienced a death loss. So, we do that in a number of ways, but we have a counseling team, and who does individual counseling, and then we do peer support groups, and so we can talk a little bit in detail about all of those things. But at our core, it's really serving children and families when there's been a death loss. And we were founded when a counselor saw a need in the community, a need that wasn't being met, and that was to provide that very specific support to children and families.
Okay. So, um, and the center is located uh, on West Alamos here in San Antonio, correct?
Yeah, so we actually have three
And
locations.
is
So
there a
our primary
Oh, you
location is
do?
on Almost. Yeah, we're on Almost in between McCullough and San Pedro. I would have said that before you'd blink if you'd miss us if you blinked, but we're expanding. So now we're hard to miss if you're driving down Almost. But we also have a facility in Floresville called Paloma Place, and then we have a center just like ours in the Valley in Harlingen.
Okay. And do the centers cater to people in a specific geographic area?
So we serve children ages 3 to 24, and we're not really limited by geography. There are other grief centers within the country, and so there's a grief center, for example, in Austin and one in Houston. So there may be other locations that are closer, but we actually will serve anybody who comes to our facility. And now with the pandemic, we're offering our services virtually, which we hadn't been able to do before. And so now that actually even expands that geography a little wider when you factor in that virtual delivery of counseling.
Oh, that's fantastic because I think there's a misconception that generally you have to be a resident of a certain area or of a county or something like that to try and take advantage of these services. Sometimes but with your organization, that's not the case.
No. So when families come to us, every family will kind of call and then they'll come in and get a visit with a counselor where the counselor will determine, what program they best fit in under our umbrella. So it might be peer support groups, it might be individual counseling, and all of that happens at our center. But sometimes it's hard to get to the center. Sometimes, as though we feel we're centrally located, transportation can be an issue. It might be hard to get the kids in the car and over to the center after school and work and all of those things. So that's when that virtual component, I think, is going to become really powerful in how we are able to reach everybody who needs us. And then we also have a program where we're able to take that peer group program to a school campus. So we have some funding through United Way and the city of San Antonio that allows us to take that peer group program onto a school campus. And we're actually in 5 districts right now.
That's fantastic. Um, so you mentioned that your program it serves families. Is there a specific, does it necessarily have to be a child suffering from the loss of a parent or a close family member? Um, can it be extended family?
That's a great question. So our age range is 3 to 24, so a huge age range of children and young adults that could be seen at the center, and all types of loss. So we actually structure our groups by type of loss, and we have a group for parent loss, we have a group for sibling loss, we have a family loss group, which kind of encompasses like aunts, uncles, grandparents, even close family friends that maybe weren't even related. We have a beyond violence group, We have chronic illness and sudden death. And then we have a self-harm group. And the reason we do that is because a child who's lost a parent to cancer has a very different experience than a child who's lost a parent or family member to suicide. And so when we're able to bring those kids together by type of loss, we're able to break down the barrier of isolation, right? That they might feel like nobody else understands what they're going through. But when they come to our center for peer group, they're with a bunch of kids their own age who know exactly what they've been through. So it is always related to a death, but it's not specific to a parent or a sibling.
Understood. And I, I think a service like this is even more important when we're going through this pandemic because um, there have been many families that have been affected by it in Bear County, and people have lost loved ones. Um, and it's great that you've been able to offer these services via um, remote services. Is it? It's sort of like a telehealth kind of thing.
Yes, yes. And, you know, we're all going through, I mean, it's a stressful time for everybody. Everybody's had to pivot or change their life in some way. And there's been unspeakable tragedy and loss of life. When we closed our doors in March, we could have never imagined that we would be in October now and still in this space that we're in. And when we shut the door to the center, we knew that we had to immediately get our team up and running and able to serve families. And sort of the saying we've adopted is that grief doesn't stop during a pandemic, and that's absolutely true. People who were grieving before the pandemic continue to grieve and actually may even re-grieve something that's happened years before because of the isolation and sort of the depression that kind of you experience when you're isolated. But then you factor in all the families who lost somebody to COVID or just lost somebody during this time, because right now, if you lose a loved one, it's a very different experience than if you lost a loved one prior to the pandemic. You are not able, oftentimes, to be with your loved one. You're not able to have the same type of memorial service. That's really a critical point in the grieving process. And so when we shut our doors in March, we knew that people were going to need us. And we weren't sure exactly what that was going to look like. But within a week, we had our team up and running doing individual counseling remotely. And we got our peer groups going. Now, um, not all peer groups work well with the Zoom platform, and certainly the littler children. That's a group that we really want to bring into the center and have started to bring back in to the center. But we knew that we needed to be up and running and we needed to be available and ready when people needed us.
Understood. So, if somebody is in need of your services, how do they go about making first contact with the center?
The best way is just to call us. So Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. You can look on the web on our website. I will say we're getting a new website. So if you happen to go to our website right now, know that there's a new one coming in a few weeks. But our phone number is there. You just give us a call. You'll be routed to our intake coordinator, who will just ask some questions about the situation, about the person lost. Even if, often as a parent, when there's been a death loss, and I can say this because this was my experience, we're not yet ready to come into the center, but we just need to know how to talk to our kids. And so certainly all of that guidance can be given over the phone. But ultimately what will happen is our intake coordinator will schedule an appointment for the entire family, either to come to the center or to have a virtual visit where she'll work to determine where best to place that family within our umbrella of services. Everything that happens at our center is free. And that's really, really important to note. We don't ever want finances to be a barrier to somebody getting the help that they need.
That's fantastic. Um, Now, my question is, there are a lot of people right now feel um, helpless, like they can't make a difference. But you know, we've been getting some of our clients have been trying to take on charitable endeavors, either monetarily or just by volunteering. What's the best way that somebody that wants to get involved with the center? What can they do?
So I would say there's a few different things, and the most meaningful of which I think we're a little bit on hold for, and that is our potluck partners. So when we have peer groups, those happen in the evening, and families come into our center. They share a meal at our long dining room table, and that meal is provided and served by volunteers. And that's a really powerful volunteer opportunity. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we're not doing that right now. We're hoping that we get that back up and running in January. So I would encourage anybody who's interested in volunteering and being able to see kind of the mission at work to stay tuned for those opportunities. Apart from that, we always need art supplies. A lot of what our counselors do is art therapy. And on our website is a list of kind of our most wanted items. It's things like paints and markers and canvases. Um, and then the other piece is monetary donation. So the center is almost 100% privately funded. We do get some small government grants, but most of the work that we're able to do is because of private donations. And so I also want to add, come and take a tour. I'm happy anytime to give anybody a tour, but I think, Sean, you'll know this, like you have to see it in order to understand really what it is. Being in the center and walking in the space and feeling the energy in there is really what you need in order to connect. It's hard to explain just what that feeling is in our center. It's not a clinical space. It's designed to feel like a home, to feel warm and inviting, and you really do have to come see it to believe it.
No, absolutely. I was lucky enough recently to have taken a tour, and um, y'all are my neighbors, and it was completely different as an experience than I thought it would be. And like you said, it had this energy about it. There's lots of natural light, um, and it feels homey. And the way that the tables are arranged for the group dinners and things like that, it makes it feel like home. It doesn't feel sterile or um, disconnected. And the facilities that they offer, kids of all ages. You showed me some of the sand therapy rooms, and then some of the hangout rooms for the older kids. And it's just it's a great space, and it gave me a great feeling walking through and thinking about all of the different people that you guys have been able to help get through one of the hardest times in their lives. It's amazing. So I recommend that any of you that are interested take a tour, even if you can't come in and help until the new year once everything's up and running. Um, it's an amazing place. And you guys
Thank
are
you.
working on an expansion right now, right?
Yeah, I was going to mention that. So if you happen to drive by our center right now, you'll see a ton of construction. We completed a capital campaign prior to the pandemic, thankfully, that is allowing us to expand our facility, and we're adding actually 8 counseling suites, and that's meaningful to us because we only have 2 counseling rooms right now, and individual counseling is a big chunk of the work that we do, and so we're adding 8 spaces. We're adding a training, our Grief Education Institute training space. We're going to have some admin offices upstairs, which is great because some of us have been officing off-site. But we're really proud of those counseling suites and what that's going to mean for the community. One of the things that we hear over and over is that though we serve children ages 3 to 24, the center, particularly the art areas upstairs, are really designed with younger children in mind. And so that teenage group really has given us the feedback that this feels like a place for little kids, and we're really mindful of that because that's a group that you start to think about the risk of suicide and things like that happening in that group, especially right now with the pandemic. So we really want to have a space that feels comfortable to children of all ages. And so with this, we'll be able to have space dedicated for teens, where they won't have to kind of pass through the play therapy rooms in order to get to them. So we're really excited about that. It should be finished late January, early February, and we'll host a grand opening in March. We're very, very grateful for that. I also wanted to point out, often when I talk about the center, people say, oh, I could never go to a place like that. It just feels too sad. And certainly the circumstances that lead families to the center are sad. The center is not sad. If you were to come to the center on pure support night, you would see children playing, you would see children laughing, making art. It's a place of hope. It's not a place of sadness. And certainly there are tears that are shed in our facility, but I think it's important to note that the center is a place of hope and not one of despair.
No, I absolutely got that feeling just from being in, even though the facility wasn't being used, you can tell the energy and the pictures that are on the walls. And it's it's just very important. And with what we deal with here at our firm, we deal with life and death regularly, but it's important to know that there is that positive part, and um, it's not what you would expect. So I was very um, impressed by you guys, your wonderful staff, your wonderful facility, and all of the services and help that you're providing right now. So what we'll do is I'm going to put some links on our pages below so that you can find information about the center. And we'll have links to the main website where the phone number is, and we'll make sure we have that list of most needed items so that if you want to donate and try and make a little difference, you can. So, Kristina,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for your time this afternoon, for sharing what you guys do. And um, please know we're here to support you. Thank you
Well,
for being
thanks for
part of our
helping share
community.
the story. Yeah, thanks for helping share the story. I think that's critical. We're the place that no one wants to need, but when you need us, you need to know that we're there. So thank you for helping to tell the story of the center.
Absolutely. Well, everyone, I hope you have a wonderful Tuesday afternoon. If you find somebody that you know somebody that's in need, please feel free to refer them to the center, and we are here to help. If you have any questions, please call my office and we can get you with the center. All right. Well, I guess this is it. We'll be have a great day, Kristina.
Thank you. You
Guys,
too.
thank you for watching, and we'll
Bye.
be in touch. Bye.